What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Another new episode of the Last Wave Podcast. If you're new here, we deal with topics like ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, conspiracies, ancient history, pretty much anything under the weird or paranormal umbrella. Again, I think we're going to be starting to branch out soon, do some more lifestyle discussions, just random stuff, but mainly the paranormal, the weird. That's what you're here for. And today we've got a fantastic episode. One of my favorite cryptids of all time. We're going to be talking about Mothman's Day. So stay tuned. I'm going to throw it to an ad real quick, a minute or two, and we'll be back to the show. What's up, everybody? I just want to take a second to shout out one of our other local sponsors, one for the podcast, actually. This is the Kava Bar of Hickory, North Carolina. They actually have a Hickory location, a Morganton, and now a Conover location that just had its grand opening. You can see pictures of that on our Instagram and TikTok for sure. But this is a great little place, fantastic atmosphere. They specialize in newer CBD, kratom, kava, and that kind of stuff. Plenty of cool new stuff to try. It's in all kinds of forms now, and it's getting healthier and better, honestly, by the day. So, I mean, they've got chocolates, gummies, pretty much everything you could need, obviously. And then they actually brew kava tea, and kava is really gaining notoriety as a natural healer. As you can see right here on their page, the NFL's newest and safest painkiller. They brew it in a tea for you. It's right there on site. Go in there and get you a little sip and a little cup, and you're good to go for the day. All kinds of stuff. Again, they just had their grand opening in Conover. So if you're in the Hickory, Morganton, Conover, Charlotte area, even it's just a few minutes up the road northwest of Charlotte. So come check them out. Follow them on Facebook. Like them on Facebook. If you go in there and you buy anything that you've seen, especially from our podcast and from our gaming channel, make sure you give us a shout out while you're there. Let them know that, hey, you saw us on one of our ads. So that'll be great for us and great for them. And I definitely recommend checking them out. I was just up there yesterday talking to the owner. Fantastic group of guys there. Really, really highly recommend this place. Go check them out. That's all I got. On with the show. All right, what's up, everybody? We're back. So, again, welcome to the Last Wave Podcast. I'm going solo today. Brando and Buster were here the other day to record, but we ended up not recording and doing a bunch of other stuff, hanging out, having a good time, which is important. You want to have good days with your buddies and your friends, and you want to gather. I feel like that's important these days. People need to gather more. You know, every great revolution, a lot of great things started with just some people coming together. You know, discussions, groups, everything. Just people coming together, being friends, being a family. It's very important nowadays, now more than ever. But anyway, enough of that. To the show. One of my favorite cryptids, the Mothman. That's what we're going to talk about today. The Mothman of West Virginia. Well, other places too, but mainly it's known for that. So, first off, let's break it way down. A cryptid, or cryptozoology, the study of animals that may or may not exist. So a cryptid is creatures that are not recognized by mainstream science. They have been the subject of fascination and fear for centuries because many of them began as stories, myths, and legends. From Bigfoot to the Loch Ness Monster, people have reported sightings and encounters with these elusive beings all around the world. One such cryptid that has gained a lot of notoriety over the years is Mothman. A creature reportedly haunts the skies over Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Now, I don't believe there has been any sightings in a very long time in Point Pleasant, but that's neither here nor there. The main story was from years ago, but let's go ahead and get into that. So the origins of Mothman can be traced back to November 1966, when two young couples were driving their car near an old abandoned munitions factory just outside Point Pleasant. According to their account, they saw a creature with large, dark wings and glowing red eyes fly over their car. They described the creature as being over 6 feet tall, with a wingspan of at least 10 feet. They were so frightened by the encounter that they immediately drove to the local police station to report it. So these kids, these youth were out driving, and I believe the actual story is they were looking for more like a place to park. You know what I'm saying? They were looking for a makeout spot, and that's when this happened. So that's what's interesting. That's what's interesting about this is that's what they were looking for. Because I've heard this story I don't know how many times, but that's what they were going for was kind of a lover's lane area, makeout spot, that kind of thing. And they were so frightened by this whole thing that they just drove straight to the police station. In the following months, numerous other sightings of the creature were reported in and around the Point Pleasant area. People claimed to see what they now call the Mothman flying over their homes, perched on telephone poles. One man even claimed to be chased by the creature while driving his car at top speed, no less. Now, cars obviously back then, top speed is a little different than it was today, but still, there should be no creature that can keep up with a car going 45, 50 down a country road. The media quickly picked up on the story, and soon Mothman became a national sensation. The creature was featured on news programs, newspapers across the country. People claimed that Mothman was a harbinger of doom and a warning of impending disaster. And sadly, this theory gained a lot of traction when on December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge, which spanned the Ohio River near Point Pleasant, collapsed. I believe the middle of the bridge collapsed, and basically it was on right around Christmas. It was a cold night, and people basically couldn't see that part of the bridge had collapsed as they were driving. So as the bridge is collapsing, they're still just driving, and it killed 46 people, and they fell into the water down below, and a lot of them didn't make it out. While there is obviously no concrete evidence linking Mothman to the bridge collapse, many people claim that he could be somehow connected to the tragedy, and he was seen on the bridge. That's one of the main things. One of the places it was seen was on the bridge, hanging on some of the struts. So that's where he is now seen as a harbinger of doom and impending disaster. But there's also, the group that sees it more as he was a warning, or it was a warning, but it wasn't malicious. It was trying to warn people. But again, who knows? But sightings of the Mothman continue to be reported, although they are much less frequent than they were in the 1960s. So today, actually, not today, but in today's modern society, it has been seen and reported, and it was actually not that long ago, couple years, maybe a handful of years ago, that people thought they were seeing it in Chicago. Like multiple people reported seeing it. And I don't recall if anything happened as far as a disaster, but a lot of people were seeing it around Chicago, around the Chicago area. It's also reported loosely that it was seen in New York around 9/11. I think that's more of just a story that's kind of grown up, I don't think there's any real hard reports of that. So what exactly is Mothman? Well, there are a couple theories, and some people think that Mothman is some kind of previously unknown species of giant owl or bird. Others think it could be a mutant bat or some kind of experimental military aircraft even. Still others believe that Mothman is a supernatural being, perhaps some type of demon or an angel. Now I would lend, because the sightings have been so few, um, I would tend to believe that it's probably a supernatural being. That's kind of how I've always felt. I don't think it was like an owl, or like a big ass condor, something like that. I don't think it was, but then again, it could have been a damn pterodactyl or something. If you listen to any of our other stuff, there was reports. They had reports of pterodactyls in Arizona and stuff years ago, so who knows? But despite numerous investigations, no one has ever been able to capture a clear photograph or video of the Mothman. No physical evidence of its existence has ever been found, and skeptics believe that Mothman is simply a hoax or the product of overactive imaginations. However, for those who have seen the creature, the experience is very real and very frightening. Now, it was frightening, but now it's basically become, um, it's really the main draw to the town, which I've been through. I don't know how many times, numerous times, and I absolutely I adore the town. But you can tell Point Pleasant is a town in decline. It's not. There's a lot of abandoned houses. It's not looking really well. Um, it's right on the Ohio River. There's a lot of coal barges that go by. It's usually gray and overcast for some reason. I feel like every time I've gone through there, it's gray and overcast. Even in the photo, you look, the photo we have is actually in Point Pleasant, and that is the Mothman statue that is right in the center of town. And people go. I saw last time I was there, I was going to take a picture or take a video for TikTok for our TikTok and Instagram, and literally someone was proposing in front of it. Yeah, yeah, they were proposing. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna keep driving. I'm not gonna stop and ruin that crazy moment. But that I thought that was really, really crazy. Well, crazy in a good way. But yeah, the Mothman statue that you see in the photo is right in the middle of town. It's huge. It's like 10 feet tall from bottom to top. And it's right up the street from the Mothman Museum, which I've been in numerous times. I've bought books. I bought a T-shirt for a family member. They have a lot of awesome books there. Some stuff from Keel and a couple other big researchers about monsters and cryptids, and they even have like kids books that are like what's those words, graphic novels. They've got keychains, bumper stickers, pretty much anything you could put a Mothman on, they've got for sale. They also have the Mothman Museum itself in the same building, which is a small, like, not really, it's fairly small for a museum, but it's basically a back room in this building, and it has all kinds of stuff from pieces of the original bridge to outfits from the movie. It was made into a movie as well, The Mothman Prophecies, with Richard Gere, and that was early 2000s, maybe 90s, but a good movie, and that's actually makes Mothman more of a crazy thing, more of a mysterious entity. Definitely a good movie. I haven't seen it in years. Might be worth a rewatch. But it's got stuff from that movie. It's got like artifacts from the movie, stuff people wore. It's got a couple Mothman statues. It's got newspaper articles from that day. Very, very cool. Very cool to see like an actual cryptid hotspot. And there's a Mothman festival in town. So, I mean, it really is like the backbone for this very small town on the river there. There's a mural. You can walk down to where the old bridge used to be, um, which is really, that's powerful just to walk there. The way the mural is that they have painted, it's painted like you're looking at the bridge. Like it's a bridge that's got cars on it. And it looks like you could just drive out onto it. So it's really powerful just to see that. Um, and you can see what people saw, before the collapse. But yes, Mothman, super, super interesting cryptid, and just honestly an amazing thing to research because people are notoriously scared people, like scared individuals. We're frightened by a lot of things usually. And when we're frightened, our um, vision, or what we see, our recount, our retelling of an event can seem much different. Now, I've never been a big proponent, and if you've heard any of our podcasts where we've talked about this kind of stuff, I usually say this once every time, that I'm a big proponent for believing people. If I was out in the woods, I'm pretty sure with my limited knowledge of woodsman life that I can tell you the difference between a large ape man and a grizzly bear. Now, if I just see like some fur, I'm not going to go out here and say I saw Bigfoot. Just like with anything else in the Amazon and these tribes of Africa and South America that report crazy creatures and, like, small people and large hairy creatures and dinosaurs, and some white explorer comes in and goes, "Oh, you must be mistaking it with an alligator." Silly natives. Like, no, these people have lived here for thousands of years. You don't mistake a dog for a horse, or you don't mistake. You get it. You get where I'm coming from. I tend to believe people can misconstrue things, but there's a big difference between, oh my God, that's a huge bird, and this 6 foot tall, 10 foot wingspan, red eyed thing was chasing us. There's a big gap there. So while I think the book on Mothman must remain open, I think it's going to fall into the realm of things kind of like the Jersey Devil and not even Bigfoot. There's like, because Bigfoot, you have so many sightings. The Loch Ness Monster, you have so many sightings. There needs to be like a ranking system. This would fall under that, to where it was seen and sometimes still is seen, but no one really knows where to stand on the fence, whether they believe it's real or not. And because I think you have people that see Bigfoot and they're like, "Oh yeah, that probably could happen," but then you have people that see Mothman and they're like, that is wild looking. How is that even possible?" So I think, again, I think it falls in that realm more of a paranormal, supernatural, than a physical being. But who knows? Nobody really knows. Still to this day, nobody has any concrete evidence. That's what's so great about cryptids and cryptozoology, is no one really knows. Is the chupacabra, is it a coyote with mange, or is it some kind of horrifying vampire creature? That's what is fun about this stuff. It keeps it interesting. It makes you wonder, and I really honestly feel like these days, wondering and thinking for yourself, just using your imagination, is so crucial, because kids are taught to read and repeat. They're not asked, well, what do you think? What is your opinion on this? And we should be telling stories and sitting around the fire and just getting back to what we're supposed to be doing as people. And I don't think we're doing that. So that's pretty much it. All I have on the Mothman. Uh, it's kind of your starter guide, your open book to it, but that also pretty much encompasses everything about it. There's really not that much information. Sadly, again, this is really just a blip in history, as far as cryptid and weird goes. But I'm going to move on from that to the second part of this episode, and I'm just going to chat a little bit about what I was just talking about, and the modern state of things and teaching and stuff like that. Now, I have some opinions, and I feel that public school, even going back to when I was in school, which wasn't that long ago, don't get it twisted. I'm not very old, but looking back, maybe it was the school I went to. I went to school in an inner city school, so it was more about the kids being on lockdown, and because there was a bunch of fights all the time. So if you basically were quiet and you learned a little bit, you'd make it. You would be successful at the school. And I feel like I learned more from watching History Channel, Discovery Channel, stuff like that as a kid than I did from school. I mean, I can't tell you anything I retained from school, from like middle school especially. I mean, I don't see that any. I don't really think much of that was valuable. And I feel like what's even crazier is the speed at which we have changed. Because if you look at technology and the way we teach now, and you look at computers, tablets, phones, all that stuff, and then you look at the rise, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. You look at the rise of things like ADHD and things of that nature. Now, computers, tablets, screen time, electricity, just 5G, 4G, Bluetooth, all these electronic waves, all this stuff is definitely not good for us. That should be cut and dry, obvious by now. So we spend all this time on electronics, and we learn by tablets, and we learn on computers, and we have this and that, and this and that. We've only had those things in my lifetime. In the last, what, 30 something years has this really only began to be a thing. That is, now humans have only been, our group of humans, whether there was ancient civilization or not, have not been here very long. We're a blip in the expected time of this planet. We are not even a blink of an eye as far as history. And a lot of things that we've done throughout history have taken years and sometimes hundreds of years to change and evolve. You look at even what I learned the other day, which I thought was insane, that Alexander the Great, I know, bear with me, I'm going to make it make sense. Alexander the Great's father was a renowned war person. He was, he conquered a lot of stuff and all that. So Alexander the Great's father in 300 or something BC, apparently he was the one that created the first torsion catapult. Okay. And we were using catapults until 1400 and something, whatever the medieval time period was. And that is an extremely long amount of time to be using the same, technology. Basically, it didn't change much from catapults to trebuchets to ballistas. All that stuff didn't change much in all those years. But in 30 years, in our time period, people were able to get used to it. People used it. People became familiar with it. They knew about it. It became old news. But for us, in 30 years or less, really, if you just go from cell phones being, more than just a phone to now, that is such a leap in technological advancement in such a small period of time that we have not evolved enough to handle these electrical items without it hindering us or hurting us. And that's why I think we're seeing a rise in. Now, I don't think ADHD is necessarily a bad thing a lot of times. I think it's more of an undiagnosed superpower. So you can do a lot of different things throughout your day. But I think we're seeing a lot of these things that are now being called diseases and defects and deficits and all this BS since in the last 30 years. I just saw something the other day, this older doctor saying that when he started practicing, there was like, it was something like six, not diseases, six terms for things like ADHD and in his time when he started in school. And now there's like 350 different mental disorders or something that people can have. It's like, I think we just made up different words for things that our brains are trying to evolve to live in this new society. And it's eventually, I don't know where it's going to go, more than likely going to go with cybernetic implants and stuff like that. But that's because our brains are not advancing. We are not evolving fast enough to be dealing with this technology. And we are trying. You can even look at just the difference in age groups. Everyone thought it was crazy when, like, in 2000s, when kids were, they knew how to hook up PlayStations and they knew how to change all the channels on the remote and all the buttons. And you just look at the difference. Like, I still have to tell most of the older members of my family, they're watching the same thing on TV every day. I'm like, we have like 6 streaming options. Like, there's like a bajillion movies and shows that you can watch if you just hit this other button. And they're like, well, I don't want to learn. But like, even in just that, like, we're not talking hundreds of years of learning. We're talking 30 years of this implementation of these new technologies that have just blown up and expanded far faster than we can deal with. So personally, in my opinion, I think that's where we get a lot of these deficits and disorders and things of that nature. It's our brains trying to evolve. It's our bodies trying to evolve and to accept this new way of life. I mean, that's just my opinion. I also am very strongly believe that we are using way too much medicine, or I use the word medicine loosely, especially for these deficits and stuff. Um, Way too much. Way, 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 way too much. I watched an older member of my family the other day sorting out their pills for the week, and it was mind blowing. I was like, well, what does that do? And they're like, well, it helps me sleep. I was like, it helps me sleep. It helps my anxiety or whatever. And I was like, but you're anxious all the time and you barely sleep. And they're like, I know. Well, then why is that, given to you? Like, there's, I'm not going to ruin our podcast by going into that. But if you start looking at the medications and the fact that we don't really need them, and the fact that a lot of this medicines that we are prescribed do not get treated out of the water supply, as they're left over, like these hormone medications and stuff. And then you look at places like California, where they have very limited water supplies, and the state of that state. And again, I've probably already connected too many threads, but that's very interesting. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say on that. Because again, I don't want our stuff pulled, and because I said something, I did. Apparently, we did something on TikTok the other day that got pulled. We were getting a lot of traction on a video, and the video was very. It was discussing the border and a leak from a Health and Human Services whistleblower that a lot of bad things were happening, and that our government was either a middleman or complicit in every bit of it, making money from it, and that HHS, all I'm going to say is the whistleblower who worked at the border said that they had lost contact with 87,000 kids that they placed. And, you know, excuse me, that they placed in homes. So, do your own math on that one. But again, I don't want us to get pulled. So that's all I'm going to say. But yeah, Mothman. Mothman's fantastic. Learn about cryptids. We should be learning about cryptids in school. I don't know. That's all I got. It's hard to run solo. If you're listening, God bless you. This is a mom and pop podcast, and we are trying to get bigger. We're trying to get better. And if you're still with us, my goodness, bless you and blessings on your family. I want nothing but the best for you and for your family. And we appreciate you for Buster and Brando. We appreciate you. Like and subscribe. Comment on our podcast videos. We absolutely love talking to people. Comment, hit us up on Facebook, send us a message, whatever. But as always, go with love, be kind to yourself, be kind to other people, and we'll get through this thing together. That's all I've got for today. Appreciate you watching and or listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.